Welcome to Smart Parents, Successful Students, the podcast that helps parents like you guide your children toward academic confidence and success. I'm your host, Helen Panos, and I'm here to share expert tips, proven strategies, and inspiring stories that make the journey to school success a little smoother for both you and your student. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Smart Parents, Successful Students podcast. I'm your host, Helen Panos. This is our 16th season of Smart Parents, Successful Students. Yay! And that's like 6 years, can you believe it, of podcasts. And you can find all those on our YouTube channel, Dynamis Learning, or on my website, dynamislearningacademy.com under podcasts. We used to do them only audio. Now we're doing video and audio. And so please join us, subscribe to the channel so you can get every time we have a new one. And these particular podcasts are all rolling out from August until the end of October. So I'm really featuring a lot of executive functioning this time and some of my tutors. And so I have Coach Katina with me. Hello, Coach Katina.
Hi, Helen. How are you doing?
Good. So I know we're going to talk about systems today, which are really, really important, more so than maybe some of us think. Really, I don't think I could do this whole company without systems if I think about it. And actually, a lot of our parents comment about how great our systems are. So obviously, people do like ease, right? Systems make everything easier. That's the point in this. So we're going to apply that today to students and making their lives easier. But first, I want Coach Katina to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her background.
Yes. So, obviously my name is Katina and my background is in early childhood special education with a master's in autism and behavior. I have worked with a variety of different needs, disabilities, as well as ADHD. And being ADHD myself, I was early diagnosed, which is actually giving me a really great angle to both see the child's point of view in living with ADHD, as well as the adult's point of view of living with ADHD. And seeing things that worked for me as a child that might have to be a little different as an adult. And then I think vice versa. So it's giving me a really great angle to come from with my experiences.
All right. You got a great background there. So we're going to talk a lot about creating a support system that sticks. We'll have a blog out there that you can get from dynamislearningacademy.com under blogs. So you'll learn a little bit more because there's only so much time to say everything we need to in a podcast. But we definitely want you to reach out. We can have a discussion about executive functioning for sure. And that way you guys can tell us what's going on with your child. But to begin with, what is a support system, Katina, and how do you identify if you need one?
Great question. So a support system is a system that you put in place in areas that you really have a lot of need for a little bit of extra support in order to be successful. This could be from big areas of life, as like knowing when and how to organize your homework and the things that you're working on for school or work, down to just the small things like losing your keys, not knowing where your scissors are.
I seem to lose my keys frequently or leave my purse upstairs and I have to run all the way back up to the house.
And it's interesting because these systems, they're best when we're looking in those areas of life that we feel like we are struggling in. As a personal example, I was always struggling with my keys. So like, I think that a lot of us do this, right? Like, where did I put them? Where did they go? So a support system I had created for myself was a really cool key hook that I put next to my door. And it was motivating enough for me. It was a deer. This was back in my Atlanta home. Here, I actually made myself a bowl. So, but it was a key hook that every time I unlocked the door, like in order to shut the door, the hook was right next to the doorknob. So it was so easy for me to put my keys on this little hook. It was motivating enough. And surprisingly enough, like, I don't lose my keys anymore. Like, I am the one that just knows where my house keys are in our house. And it's been such a helpful system that it was something that I even brought when I moved. Now, I didn't bring the door hook that I usually used back in the States, but I built my own bowl that was, fun for me to just throw the keys right in, right next to the door. But those types of systems are something that we can give ourselves to just take some of that taxing mental load off of the brain. And also, we have to remember that with ADHD and executive functioning, we cannot always count on our brains to manage our day to day. Like, we really do rely on a lot of external supports, and knowing which ones are going to help you the best is really the best way to be successful.
Ah, yes. Good old keys. I can't think of anybody that probably can't use some kind of strategy around keys and finding them. Luckily, I cannot drive the car away. I may not have them on me, but I can't leave without them on me. And the doors won't unlock unless I have the key with me. That's how I know if I have it or not.
But then your doors don't unlock and you're like, where could I have put this key?
So the automakers have even gotten to be like strategic in how they set up their system to help people that are forgetful about their keys. So how do you know if the system you've chosen will work for you, for like kids, for 6th through 12th graders, let's say?
Honestly, I think the best way to make sure that you're choosing a system that works for you is for the person whose the system is for has a major say in it. As we see with a lot of kids, if a parent comes in and says, this is how something is going to work, that system is typically not going to work.
Because that's a system you probably were taught for you, and it worked for you.
Exactly. And then it can become really frustrating. You'll try to tell your child, like, come on, like, it's not that hard.
Right.
And it might not be hard for you, but they might be struggling with it. And then they're just going to push those things further past. So the biggest thing is to, one, see where that area of need is and help your kids to identify that in themselves. Like, let's just go back to keys. Like, I see that you're looking for your keys a lot. Like, do you feel like that's something that's a struggle for you or frustrating for you? And get that buy-in first. Like, gosh, yes. Oh, I never know where that is. I don't know where my homework bag is, or my computer. What are the kids now in the MacBook Chromes? I don't know where I put my Chrome. So, like, you can help them identify where that area of stress or like that support area might be needing to be had. And in that moment, then start with those questions like, what do you think would be helpful for you? Like, I love the question of, I wonder.
Oh, yeah.
Place to put your MacBook would be helpful.
Yeah, give them an idea. Without giving them the idea.
I wonder where a good place could be. And like, so there's questions that you can help lead your child into figuring it out. But by them creating these ideas, it gets them to have a lot more buy-in. And with buy-in, you find a lot more success.
Yes. Yeah. So homework is a biggie, right? Why are you not turning in your homework? I don't know. I left it at home, or I left it in my book bag, or it was in the locker and I didn't have it in the classroom. So can you say anything about a system related to that? That's a quick little strategy that might help a child with that type of thing, Katina?
For me, I always would have like a folder system that that this was what I did when I was in school is I had one side of my folder was all of the homework I needed to get done. And on the other side of my folder was all of my completed homework. And I even had, once I got into high school, a little checkbox for things that were like still being worked on. So that way I knew that like I had done something, but it might not be in the complete folder. And then what I did is every single day before school, I had a really wonderful, I still have really wonderful parents. And my dad would every morning just be like, check your folder. And it was just an easy reminder. Nowadays, like before I have to leave for things, I actually have a reminder set on my phone that's like, check your folder. Because yes, I still operate with my own folder system, even as an adult, because that was something that I built as a child and it really worked for me. So now when I have important paperwork that I need to be working on or move things, I still have my folder, but I don't want my dad around anymore to tell me to check it. So I just have created my own new alarm system for.
I have a folder too.
But it was also something that I remember building with my dad and him saying, you know, it would be helpful maybe if you had a reminder in the morning for making sure that that's in your backpack.
Right.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. And then even sometimes I even would set my own little Post-its, because I've talked about this in the past. I'm a big Post-it person. And I would have my Post-it on my mirror in college that would say, folder in your bag. So that way, as I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, I'm like, folder in the bag. And so if it was still on my desk, I would put it back in the bag. And then this even folds into creating different habits. And that could be a whole other conversation of how to build a good habit.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, even this morning, I forgot to sign up for, I think I fell asleep before I signed up for something. I think in the middle of it. For some reason, it didn't go through. And I'm thinking, oh, I didn't sign. I'm surprised I even remembered this morning to sign up for this chamber event. And I'm like, I know there's a deadline of noon. And I'm like, uh-oh, I'm going to miss it. It's tomorrow. So I've got to do it. But sometimes I'll be out and about and like I don't have my calendar right there on me, let's say, and I get a parent call or something like that. I usually type an email to myself to remember to do something, to call a parent. Or I'll set an alarm. So it'll ring on me to remember to call that person. Because I mean, we're all busy. I mean, multitasking doesn't work for everybody. My husband will say it doesn't work for anyone. I kind of disagree a little bit, but
I actually had a really great, I was at this conference and they said that even the best people who believe that they can really multitask, you're still not doing everything at 100%.
That's true.
So because I always like to say I am a great multitasker because I can work on so many projects at the same time, but then I have to remind myself, well, how many of them did I finish?
Right.
So
like picking up a book, starting one book. Oh, wait, I think I want to do this book. Oh, wait, and maybe this book.
I have been known to read 3 or 4 books at the same time because of that. Like I'll just start picking things up. And then at one point I'm like, wait, what happened to this character? And it's in a different book.
And then you've like kind of lost your train of thought about the story. So how do you stick with a system? How does a student especially stick with a system once they, I know we do executive functioning, we have packages. I was just thinking about this. You know, I feel like there needs to be more maintenance, kind of like chiropractors do. You go and see a chiropractor, maybe if you've had a car accident 3 times a week, then it becomes 2 times a week. Then it goes down to 1 time a week as you get better, right? And then I'm like, oh, now I go once every 3 weeks because I really don't need it. It's more of a maintenance. I feel like there needs to be something that has kids keeping up with this if it's not on a regular routine, let's say.
Right. Especially it's really easy to break these when we have summer breaks.
I was going to say summer breaks or winter break.
The first few weeks going back into the school year or back into school after your break is really the best time to really fully check those systems again. Are they still motivating? Do you really feel like they're still working? So making sure that at the beginning of the year, or what systems might we need to build anew? You're going into a new grade, you have new responsibilities, you have to remember your locker code. So like what are some things that you can now build, and what are some systems that you might not need anymore? Because at the end of the day, if you have something that you just don't feel like is working for you anymore, pushing through it, saying, oh, it used to work for me, that's not always going to get you to the finish line that you're looking for. So like even, just my own example, I didn't have that hook anymore. So I created a new system, a bowl system where I made my own bowl. So I'm still feeling that fun connection to it. So the same thing goes with, your homework. Maybe the folder system was working for you when you were in middle school and able to check, but now you have a MacBook or your Chromebook. And so it looks a little different as to how you're going to need to be submitting your homework and creating your own folder systems. So it's a good time to check in. And I would think at the very beginning of a system, I would do a weekly check-in for sure. How is that going with you? You could even go down to daily, just asking your kids, hey, how's it working for you? How's it working for you? Always check in though on how often your kids like to be questioned. Because I know for me, sometimes if I get checked in too much, I start thinking back on whatever it is I'm being checked in on.
Yes.
And you can see that especially a lot of kids with ADHD will have that a little bit of operational defiance. And it's not to say that they don't want to do the thing. It's just all of a sudden when that thing feels like work, it no longer feels like support. So it is a fine line. And I think it's best to really talk with your executive functioning coaches on what is the best way to check in with you. And working that out with your child as like, how often do you want to be checked in on? And it would surprise you how often a lot of kids might even give you the answers, or, oh, I really do think I need it every day, or I think I might only need it every week now. And just really feel like, okay, maybe every once a month we'll check in and see how that system's going. So I think it really does vary, but making sure that you have buy-in is the most important thing to making sure that something like this is going to work. Because I can tell you left and right, I tell my husband to use the key system so his keys are never lost. I'm looking for his keys. So
you're looking for his keys. That's interesting. You bring all that.
It's not his. So, but it is interesting. So you're just making sure that the systems that you are putting in place are really effective. And there's some that I think work for everybody, or not everybody, but for most people. And then there's some that might be really niche that you have to sit and work through. Don't give up on just trying one system and it didn't work, and then you feel like, oh, it doesn't work for me. You might need to try a few different things and give yourself grace while you're trying to figure out what is going to be working for you or your child.
Yeah, it takes time, like everything else, right? Like trying to remember to go work out, or trying to remember to cut the grass, or whatever, we all are busy. And give them grace. In fact, one of the other podcasts is with Crystal Dement, who is one of my executive function coaches as well. And we're talking about damage control, why self-advocacy for ADHD is important. And this comes up in there as well, where she's tutoring, we were talking about tutoring a child that she has actually right now, an executive function coaching situation. And he does like to butt up against his parents because they have been shown to do something a certain way. And then he's going to push back every time they ask him to do something. And he's getting ready to go into high school. So, so then Crystal has to talk with the parents about easing up, about all of that as well. So then it becomes a conversation with parents about, well, I get you're trying to help them, but let's let it be. Let him try it, even if the child has to fall on their own terms. let that happen, because then it shows them, oh, this obviously isn't going to work.
The way I view it is help them help themselves.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest thing. And this is where I do find the use of leading questions to be really a great asset in helping your own child help themselves by giving them these open-ended questions, making them critically think, wonder, consider their surroundings and what's happening to them. Because especially with our brains and our fast-moving life, it's very easy to not really fully pay attention to what you need and what's in front of you until somebody starts to make you a little bit more aware of that. But pointing it out for someone never seems to work quite as well as them thinking about it themselves and then coming to that realization themselves.
Yeah.
But they can always get a little help to get there.
Yes. Well, I appreciate your time today. It's always great talking to you. You have such great wisdom. Executive functioning skills. It's always interesting. I spoke with my husband about this, and we talked about this with Crystal too. Like, how do we learn executive functioning skills? And my husband couldn't really remember. When there's 7 kids in their family, I guess they kind of like bounced off of each other maybe. And he was in the middle of the 7. I think when I was thinking back, where it really might have actually happened was when I went to work, because I worked at a drugstore when I was 16. And really, my twin and I also worked doing like just direct mail type of mailings and stuff like that when we were 12, just for a friend. And babysitting. So now you're time management, you got some responsibility. But I'd say being a cashier, being behind a cosmetic counter and having to talk to people and being on time, and then getting constructive criticism from a boss. And if they have to reprimand you, I feel like when you're getting paid, you're going to change your ways more so than a parent telling you to change your ways. Would you agree with that, Katina? I don't know. That's why I kind of narrowed it down to work.
I would think so. And I think just in general, it's harder for kids to listen to things that their parents are saying, because at the end of the day, in a kid's brain, the parent is always wrong. And so having some of those outside people that are able to help work and talk with your kids, I think is really important, especially people who have a little bit more understanding of how operational defiance works and the things that actually help support operational defiance over things that actually make it worse.
Right. And some of that comes, I think will come into play with ADHD kids is the emotional regulation. If they're backed up against the wall, then, the stressors of that start to jump in and then you start seeing it.
Brains, we are definitely in flight or fight a whole lot more. And then with things like rejection sensitivity disorder, you a lot of times feel like you have to defend yourself so much more, even if from the outside view, people don't feel like this is something that needs to be defended. It's a really interesting chemical reaction in our brains that, it is. And I think it's being more understood these days where, we're not being pushy, we're not being defiant. It's something in our brain is now telling us that I don't want to, even if we want to. Right? That's the hardest part. You're like, but I actually want to do this. Why does my brain even as I'm developing my own new habits of reading every single night, I've had to tell my husband, if I'm not reading tonight, I really don't need you to check in and make sure that I'm reading, because then it makes me not want to read. So it's one of those things where I'm I know you're being helpful, in supporting me in my new habit, but
that's funny. Yep. Yeah. Well, thank you again for joining me in this podcast. And guys, I hope you join us in the next episode of Smart Parents, Successful Students. Bye for now. Thanks for tuning in to Smart Parents, Successful Students podcast. If you found today's episode insightful, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. and check out our YouTube channel for even more tips to help your student thrive. Until next time, keep guiding your children towards success.